When I arrived, there was in a fairly desultory state of this investigation. The investigation at the time I arrived was exclusively focused on Team Thomas, the charitable organization. The question was, were they soliciting without a license, which the answer is yes. What were they representing to the people who contributed, and how were they spending the funds in Team Thomas? After I arrived and we looked at the situation, we knew that from representations by Mr. Thomas and his counsel that there was approximately $200,000 in this charitable organization of Team Thomas, and we could not find who had contributed so much. And at one point, Mr. Cook, Fred Cook, who's a very able lawyer, represents Mr. Thomas, said that Mr. Thomas said that most of the money in Team Thomas was his personal funds. And so the question was, well, where did he get these personal funds and when did he contribute them? And that's when we pursued the matter and discovered the earmark, an earmark in 2007 for the 2000 fiscal 8 year of $400,000, which was to go for youth baseball. And when we tracked that down, we found that Mr. Thomas had told the Youth and Children
and Youth Investment Trust
Corporation, which is a nonprofit private organization. Its membership is appointed, the board is appointed by the mayor and the city council. Thomas told them to transfer the funds, the $400,000, to the Langston 21 Foundation, which is a foundation dealing with golf at the Langston Golf Course. It's not dealing with youth baseball. And when we traced that and we saw the funds went there, the way it worked was that the corporation, the trust corporation, provided checks to the principals of Langston 21, who in turn were instructed by Mr. Thomas to write checks to his profit-making company, HLT Swingway Thomas, and Team Thomas. So the first check, which was for $100,000 to Langston, was put in Langston's bank account, but then the Langston officials wrote checks, $60,000 to the for-profit Thomas Corporation, $15,000 to Team Thomas, and Langston kept the rest.
Did you find that Tommy Thomas, the council member himself, was directing these funds, or was someone acting on his behalf, or was it in fact him spending this time? He talks so much. This is the painful part of it. I've known him for some time. He talks about helping young people through sports, and to see that this money in this fashion, unless he presents a different case, is really terrible. But did he personally do this? Did he pick up the phone and tell people this, or did he have staff do it?
Well, it's a combination. The staff told the trust corporation to make the check payable to Langston and to deliver it to Jimmy Garvin. But Mr. Garvin and Mr. Banks, who were the principals of Langston 21, said they met with Mr. Thomas. He gave them the directions on how the checks would be written. And, of course, the checks were made out to his profit corporation and his nonprofit, and he endorsed those checks, and he deposited those checks. And then the most dramatic thing we see in the documentation is that a few days after the $60,000 is provided to the for-profit corporation, which, by the way, up to that point had a negative balance in its bank account, now it had $60,000. 2 days later, a cashier's check is taken from that account for $58,000 and delivered personally by Mr. Thomas to Tisher Audi for a deluxe SUV that was purchased, and when the check plus the old car that Mr. Thomas had, plus other credits that he received, proved to be about $1,000 short of the total amount, he used the debit card of the charitable entity, Team Thomas, which had just had an infusion of $15,000 from Langston, to pay the remainder and drive off the lot. Several months later, that car was titled in the name of his profit corporation, and then thereafter it was titled in Mr. Thomas's name, where it is currently titled. And I noticed he drove that SUV to his recent press conference, denying any improprieties and saying that he bought this with his own funds.
I want to back up for 1 second because these funds were channeled, as you pointed out, through the Children and Youth Investment Trust Corporation for the purpose of baseball. Should it not have raised eyebrows when the funds were channeled to Langston 21, because everybody knows that Langston is a golf course, and even Alan Suderman, loose lips, says that LL is no Tiger Woods, but he's pretty sure golf and baseball are different sports. Shouldn't it have raised some eyebrows when these funds were channeled to Langston 21?
Absolutely, it should have, although, to be fair, that in the application, the folks from Mr. Thomas's office said that these were going to be for swing sports, which would include golf and baseball. And
Tommy's
softball.
a big, council member that plays golf. Now, is one of the allegations that he took some personal trip to Pebble Beach in California?
Yes, the trips to
on the city money.
Well, yes, it's hard to know exactly how the money's fungible. The trips were paid for through Team Thomas. Team Thomas did have about $80,000 of contributions from private organizations who we believe were led to believe that, first of all, this was a 501c3, a tax-exempt organization, which it was not, which they were led to believe that the organization had a license to solicit from the district, which it did not. And, of course, most importantly, they were told that this was going to go for youth baseball. And when the money was there, the $80,000 from private donors and the $108,000 that came from district grants, there were trips to Pebble Beach, to golf courses in Las Vegas and elsewhere, and they were paid for by Team Thomas. We don't believe that served youth baseball in the district.